All right, we're taking notes today over making bar graphs. You should be around page 93 in your journal. Please be sure your page number is in the upper outside corner of your journal, not the inside corner, and title it Making Bar Graphs. You will need to copy this definition down. A bar graph. Highlight the term, box the term, circle the term, something. But a bar graph is a graphical representation to organize data that uses solid bars that do not touch each other. Do not touch each other is important information. It's what distinguishes a bar graph from other types of graphs. Uses solid bars that do not touch each other to show the frequency that each category occurs. Thumbs up when you're ready to move on. Okay, we're going to use this data here to create a bar graph. This is data where someone observed the license plates in a parking lot. Of course, we're in Texas, so it would make sense that most of them were from Texas. We're right next to the Oklahoma border, so it makes sense that we have quite a few from Oklahoma, close to Louisiana, and just a few from New Mexico. So we are going to use this data to create a bar graph. So you'll need to copy this data into your journal. And then we're just going to start with a big box like that. We're going to use that box to create our bar graph. Okay, so the first thing we need to do, we have 4 different categories that we're graphing. So at the bottom of our bar graph, we're going to label these 4 different categories. First off, we have Texas. We have Oklahoma. We have Louisiana. And we have New Mexico. Now the next thing we have to do, and this is really important, we have to figure out what scale or interval we're going to use to number our y-axis or the side of our graph, right? So if we look at our data, what is our biggest value? 32, and our smallest value is 9. Okay, so we've got to go up to 32, but we don't have 32 lines. We don't want to number this by ones. Okay, so I know that I can divide 32 evenly by 4. Could we number by 4s?
Yes.
Okay, so let's number by 4s. So the very bottom line, of course, would be 0, 4, 8, 12. Now the line exactly is going to represent what we have labeled here, okay? So if I color up to that line, then that number represents what that line is. Does that make sense? All right, so I have it numbered by 4s. I could actually go a little bit higher than 32. There we go. Okay. Now I need to draw a bar up to the amount or the frequency for each of my categories. So the first state I have here is Texas, and we observed 32 Texas plates. So I'm going to draw a bar above Texas right up to the 32 and shade it in. Okay. All right, now for Oklahoma, we have 26 plates. So I would need to go right between 24 and 28. So halfway between 24 and 28 is where my bar is going to be for Oklahoma. Let's move that over. That's even worse. All right. Is that about right? Right there? And we're going to shade that puppy in. Then we have Louisiana. We need 17 Louisiana plates. So that's just going to be slightly above, 1/4 of a line above of the space above 16. So about 1/4 of the space above 16. And then we would shade that in as well.
Done.
Next is New Mexico, and it's 9. So again, we're going to be just about a quarter of the space above the 8.
You said Oklahoma was going between 28 and 21 and 20?
Yes, right? Halfway between 24 and 28. Okay, so our bar graph would look something like this. This makes a good picture of our data where we can visually see, without even having to think about it, which state had the most license plates?
Texas.
Texas. Which had the least?
New Mexico.
New Mexico. We can also compare a little more mathematically. What is the difference between the New Mexico plates and the Texas plates?
There's a lot more. Are these real?
What is the difference?
Oh, difference.
How do we find difference in math, people?
You subtract.
We subtract. So what would be the difference, Paige?
3 license plates more in Texas.
From Texas to New Mexico,
That'd be
what is the
35.
difference? What is the difference? Braylon?
23?
23. Yes, 32 minus 9 is 23.
I forgot to drop down my.
Oh, okay, 23. Yes. So do you see how this bar graphs helps us to analyze the data, right? Okay. All right, so we're going to do our OMO in our journal, and so our class voted on favorite fruits of 4 different categories. Let me put that on here. For your OMO, you're going to use this data to help you create a bar chart of the favorite fruits for the snacks, okay? So you have to think about the range of your data. So how big is the biggest number? How small is the smallest number? And what would be a reasonable thing to number our chart by? We don't want our data, if we numbered by tens, all of our data would be really close to the bottom, right? We want it to be spread out, okay? So what is our biggest number on here?
6.
11?
Yeah.
Our biggest number on there is 11. Our smallest number is 4. So 11's not that big of a number, right? Could we number our chart by ones?
Yes.
Right, we could. If we didn't have much space, we could maybe do by 2s, but we definitely wouldn't want to do by like 4s or 5s, okay? So go ahead and create your bar chart, copy this data into your journal, and when you're done, have me check it off so that we can go on to our next activity. Don't forget that when you're done with your notes, you take pictures of your notes and put them into the journal assignment that's in Google Classroom.